I want to thank everybody for coming tonight to our special board meeting in regards to stormwater. We're going to take comments from the audience, the people that have problems with stormwater in the area. If everyone could just say their name, their address, and what area they're in, that would be great. Why don't we just start in the front row and go from there? Anybody like to? Yes, sir.
Guess I'll be the first guinea pig. So, my name is Al Roberts. I run Roberts Construction. I have several pieces of property in the village, not the town. My office is located on 115 Genesee Street. And currently, it's been going on for a long time, probably 30 years that I know of. The stormwater comes off of Upper Jordan, Compton, and Gilbert, down Paris Road, into the village property, and dumps into a 36-inch pipe in a manhole that runs under Dr. Krause's house, which currently runs into my property, dumps onto my property, and basically floods a third of my property. Not a third, but it floods my property and it floods my mother-in-law's garage, which it's been doing for, like I say, 30 years. And I'm a site contractor, so I've maintained it enough to where it was manageable, but now it's just gotten completely out of hand. All of the water on Upper Paris Road, Upper Jordan, Gilbert, and Compton, it all comes through my property. So there's a 36-inch pipe discharging onto my property, and an 18-inch pipe kept picking it up at my mother-in-law's garage, which you don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure out that's not going to work. Which it discharges into a manhole on Genesee Street, which is a 20-inch pipe. So there's no, I could expand the pipe at my mother-in-law's, which I believe is the village's pipe, but it's not gonna handle it when it gets to the catch basin. I've also done I'm willing to work with the town. I'm not asking them to stop running water through my property, but I have taken it a step further and talked to my attorney, Michael Arcuri. We just got a title insurance on the property because there was a section of property that was in question whether I owned it or not. It turns out I do. Nowhere in my abstract, nowhere in my deed does the village or the town have an easement through my property. So rather than fight, which is not why I'm here, and say, well, I'm just going to cut it off and the water's going to go down Paris Road into the village, something needs to get done. So all of the water, you've got to manage the water up on Compton and Jordan and Upper Paris before it comes down to me as a, I have a video on my phone, obviously the crowd can't see it. It's scary. It's a scary situation. If a kid ever fell into this ditch, they drowned. There's no way you couldn't, I couldn't swim out of it. I mean, it is scary. So, and it's not just, it's even a mild rain, and it at least fills up to where you can't, where it won't take it. Because you're sending 3 foot of water into a 20-inch pipe, which it's a galvanized pipe that was probably put in the 50s. So I know the belly of it's rotted, because I've already dug up a section of it to replace it because I had a sinkhole, which is probably the village's problem, but it really isn't because there's no easement. So I maintain it. I made Donnie Batke aware of it 25 years ago, but nobody's ever done anything, and no disrespect to the town because I've never pushed it, but now it's out of hand. And I'm currently going for a building permit to put a third office building in this area where the stormwater comes through, which I can still build a building, but I can't pipe it because it'll choke it further back and it'll flood the existing building I have. Rick's aware of it. Rick and Chris, I'm sorry, Chris. Rick and Chris met me up there with the village guys. Everybody's aware of it. It's just, it's got to be engineered. I can't take all this water. you know, push comes to shove, I probably have a right to shut it off.
Dave, is this project that we're working on up there, is it gonna help with that situation?
Yes, Al, Mr. Roberts hit the nail on the head when he said we've got to manage it up further, and that's
Right.
exactly what this project does. Do you want to go into that just quickly?
Yeah, so we actually have, I brought it tonight, we have another $200,000 in grant money from the county to fix one of the issues, which again will take care of a lot of the issues. And this is upstream that we'll do that for. Again, this project here, we're going to put retention ponds up on property that we negotiated an easement for to put them up there. So this definitely will help.
I think it's worth mentioning that the original work on this was done in the fall of 2017. The engineering report from Martin Judas was rather detailed, with typo maps indicating where the best place for a retention area would be. And to go along with that, just to give you some perspective on what this will accomplish, the areas that are flooded now are, and I'm sure I'm missing some, but it's generally Foxcroft, Hubbardton, Gilbert, Sherwood, Wildwood, Partridge, Tanglewood, Wedgewood, Pippinwood, Paris, Compton, Wayside, Jordan, Genesee, Wilbur, Woodbury, Sherrill Lane, Mallard Brook, and Oxford Road. It's a huge area impacting hundreds of people. So this project is extremely important. Where we are on this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we've acquired the property through the diligence of Rick Sherman and our county representatives who are both here tonight. We've secured a $200,000 grant. Whether that's going to accomplish everything or not, I don't know. But it's a very good start. The next thing that has to happen is the engineering firm wants to go in there and do some boring, some test holes to check the water table and do some surveying. And I know Rick is working on that. That may happen within the next week or two.
And we have permission from the owners to do that.
Yes, they've been very, very cooperative. Rick has agreed to do some in-kind service to cut the cost or to help defray some of the cost, because $200,000 on a project like this is great, but whether it's going to cover it or not, I don't know, and we'll probably be talking to our county representatives again. Again, the magnitude of this is pretty significant. Mr. Roberts is 100% correct. We've got to manage it above the water flow. The reason that this is we've done retention areas in the town over the past 15, 20 years, such as Tibbetts and Oxford, Woodbury Road, Beechwood Road, and now Great Chill Road. And each one of those has proved to be a very effective way to manage the water at the top of the hill as it comes down. So that's where this project is. Hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we're actually going to be in there turning some dirt and providing some help. It's not going to happen overnight, but the magnitude of the issue is well received by this group. And I know most everybody here has been dealing with this for years. I think that happens because we try to we'll fix this section, but it doesn't fix it down here, or it compounds it above. So this is really the best way to manage it, is catch it as it comes into the town of Hartford. This water comes off of Tibbetts Road, if you're not familiar with it. It all comes off of Tibbetts Road and runs along the backside of Foxcroft. And then from there, it goes down Woodbury, and then it goes down, ends up on Paris Road, into the village. It actually terminates, correct me if I'm wrong, Rick, on Campion Road, and that floods.
So where's the retention basin being constructed? Where is it? And how big is it? Because a retention basin is basically a dry well that buys you time.
That's right.
But when it's full, it's just like it's not there. Once you fill it and it goes into the spillway,
it has to be metered, it has to retain, and then it's measured as it exits the
Right.
retention area.
Right, but what, if you had a.
These are engineering questions, and they know this, and I'm not gonna try and answer the
No,
engineering
I-
questions. But
That's
that's
great, I'm glad that it's happening, but my concern is, you know, and Rick, you're probably more aware of it than David is, but, I mean, once it gets to the spillway, what happens to it then? I mean, if you get a 1 hour, 2-inch rainstorm like we get now, you know, for global warming.
Those are all calculated in the report.
Does it fluctuate? Does the spillway fluctuate as it's filling up? I don't
It
know.
was calculated at a 10-year, 100-year storm, so there's calculations, so there's percentage decreases for each of those storms that it takes up. Again, it's not the end-all that's gonna stop for any major 100-year storm, but it's just a percentage of water that's gonna slow down the velocity going downstream.
We
Right,
were,
because it's not a leach field, it's not.
No, it's not.
It's not a dry well where it leaches, it just basically,
that's
it's
exactly
like
right.
a reservoir.
That's what each of these retention areas that I just mentioned do exactly.
It slows down velocity, that's the key.
Right, well, it buys you time, but what I'm
Correct.
saying is if you get a long storm, it's not, it's,
Those are, again, engineering questions, 100-year storm or whatever, they break it down subsequently.
so you're thinking by the end of the summer, you're gonna have this thing up and running.
Boy, that is very optimistic.
Call me,
I'm just
hire
telling
me,
you.
I'll have it done.
I'm just telling you, it's very optimistic. One of the things, we actually walked the property 2 weeks ago, Rick, or thereabouts, and found some issues that the town didn't know about, that perhaps somebody else has gone in and done some alterations. Chris is probably familiar with that parcel also, but we walked it 2 weeks ago to get another look at it. You're right, it's gotta be managed before it gets to you.
Last Thursday's storm, we got over 2 inches of rain in a couple hours.
Which we get those rains.
Right, but
I mean,
every
it's
detention
not
pond,
uncommon.
every detention pond has been built, it's in operation right now, was not going over this switchback.
They worked.
It worked.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
again, we go back and we fix your pipe problem, but you can understand, in fact, you mentioned it, it just makes things worse downstream or it impacts it upstream. So those situations don't solve the issue.
So this project was engineered as a whole area. It wasn't just a few backyards. This was engineered as a whole area. And what they did was the information that they took from that, once it's completed and compiled, then what we'll do is we'll go out to bid and get the work done. It's just the numbers that they're trying to reach are set numbers that they have in mind already that they're trying to get to make this the most efficient. So we don't know exactly the total size of the retention area at this point until, you know, the engineering plans are completely finished.
I'm glad to show you on the map where it's planned.
Is it 1 pound or 2 pounds?
1 pound.
Well, I guess my $1 million question is, the work's gonna start this year when you guys go out to bid, let's say, you know, late August, early, you know, September, whatever. So by the fall or end of fall, beginning of winter, we should see a difference in,
I can't make that statement. I don't know what they're gonna run into. I mean, that would be wonderful. I would love to see that. But there's no way we could make that commitment.
Yeah, I mean, grain and chill, again, we started with that. We had, you know, the water authority issues with the pipe there, National Grid, we were trying to get permits, DEC. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it than just, you
yeah, I
know,
know, that's what I do.
it's not just digging a hole in the ground and
No.
saying, okay, it's done now, and let's move on. But, you know, we
I'm
worked with
fully aware of
DEC and, you know, it took us months to get a DEC permit for Grange Hill, you know, so.
My issue is I'm trying to build a building and I got flooding and, you know, I'm just trying to kind of get an idea of what the timing is, that's all. I understand.
I wish we had a good answer for that.
I mean, I can tell you this, every project so far this year that we've been working on has been moving quickly, very quickly. So, I mean, we're gonna go as quick as we can. Again, the only people that ever hold us up here is DEC, National Grid, and the Water Authority. So if we take them out of the picture and we don't have to deal with any of those agencies, you know, it should only take a couple of months to have this completed.
Well, it sounds good.
If I can put you guys on the spot.
Sure.
Is there more funding as this goes along, or don't you know? I mean,
Well,
The $2 million that the county put in last year, the town got 1.3,
Yes.
as you know.
Yes.
This year, the 2 million, the 2 projects that the town asked for, we gave them.
Right.
But to be honest with you, I sit on that committee, and the money for this year, that one meeting was spent. I mean, all 2 million is gone.
Yeah, okay.
But in saying that, you know, we might be able to revisit it if other projects haven't started. You know, that's the conversation that we had.
Right, that's kind of why I bring it up.
Yeah, so, yeah, we talk about that, you know, as certain projects aren't done and there's money left over, or they're not done yet, maybe we could allocate money into this.
Right.
I can't promise that, but that's something we could advocate for by all means, yeah.
Thank you.
And Rick did a great job
He
in,
did.
in putting the applications forward, and New Hartford got everything they asked for.
Right.
And hopefully we'll continue to get everything they asked for. I chair that committee.
Thanks, Jim.
Mary's the one that comes and gives everybody.
Jim
a hard
DeNorfio and
time.
Mary Pratt are.
Mary Pratt's the one that gives everybody a hard time, though, not me. I'm a nice guy.
I'm all for New
Mary's
Hartford.
right.
There's some Bridgewater.
I can't do it without Mary.
That's right. Two very good representatives for our community.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
We live on Christopher Circle. We've been up there about 30 years. The time we moved up there, we had a dry lot. South Park was a swamp. Water was coming under from that side of the road, under Higby, and coming back our New Hartford storm drain in front. Over the years, between all the building that's going on, we are getting flooded out. Mr. Moss has seen our pictures. Where it comes in to the one side of our driveway, it can't carry it, so it backs it up. It becomes a huge pond. It is now going down our side yard, which has now become New Hartford drainage for all that's coming across. The neighbor at the bottom of the circle had a problem. You might have heard of Mary Jo. She has had that storm taking care of hers. The only thing happens now, we're getting more water coming across the street from all the building. There's more lots being up for sale up there, and it's now backing up further than what it was before. So they really haven't solved any problems. The neighbors are covering their lots, so rather than open drainage, we got small pipe carrying. They're moving their water from the backyard to drain into the front. The way the water comes, the road is, the water's running off their driveways, and we've got a waterfall coming into that front ditch, that ditch again. So we've got water coming from everywhere into one section of a ditch that the pipes cannot carry it. One pipe on my driveway is a lake, and the other pipe is carrying the water normally down to everybody else, so they don't realize what kind of water we're getting. I need some help. I cannot take any more water, or we cannot take any more water coming under Higby. It's not just a one-shot deal. This is during meltdown. It's happened in the winter. Anytime you have any kind of rain, it's backing up because the pipe, all the water that's coming into the pipe is not big enough to carry it, and I need help there. Because any more lots that are sold across that Higby there and start draining again is going to really flood me out even more than we are. I need to know that something is being considered about where the drainage is going from all the buildup that's being done across from us.
Add to that a little bit, the drain coming across from Higby is getting so big that it won't handle it. It comes across underneath Christopher and starts coming down and going right down the back lawns of the whole doggone inside. Circle. The whole doggone circle gets it.
Mr. Moss has seen pictures.
So maybe 10 years ago or more, we got together and we put a French drain in the back, okay? Now, since then, I don't know, I think it was the town, came in and Mary Jo, with her moaning and complaining, she had the doggone, her section done by the town, I believe, and they put a drain system in there. But the drain stopped about 4 houses down, and it clogged our French drain up, so it no longer works. And the water's got no place to go.
So you mentioned too, is like when the new homes are being built across Higbee is when you noticed more significant.
When we first got up there and they started building, we would get construction stuff coming down our front drainage ditch. And it handled it. And over the years, it's gotten more and more and more. Till now it's the point, now they've built, not only have they done South Park with all the building, but they're building houses along Higbee there. So we have got drainage coming from the both sides of the circle. We've got drainage coming down driveways on the other side of the street, should be going down a catch basin where it comes into Frederick. And because of what they're doing with their lots, all that water now is, instead of going down to the catch basin one way, is becoming a waterfall into this same one ditch piece of area that's getting the water from under Higbee across the road. We've also had a neighbor in back that's got his sump pump 5 feet from our back lawn. Not codes, but there it is. They did that, we were gone. So we're getting water from everywhere for our lot.
And the subsequent lots, all the way down the circle.
Yeah. So there's nowhere, any more building that goes, we have no way to retain any more water. My side yard has become a New Hartford drainage ditch.
On Higbee, the water goes underneath. I thought it was going down the culverts.
Does both. Excuse me, I was up there the other day looking at that, and right where the new houses are, they have a vacant lot down to Sullivan Way. Those ditches need to be cleaned out. It's gonna help a little, but not the way, the rain that we got. But I put a call into the county to get them cleaned.
We wouldn't be here if this was a
Right,
one-shot
right.
deal. We have watched our lot being inundated with water more and more every year. We've been up there a lot of years, very seldom complain about anything. The only trouble is wherever the construction or wherever it's coming from, they are pouring so much water around that's coming into one small ditch, and it can't carry it. So consequently, we now got a lake and a flood, and we know where to go. We have reached the maximum of water that can come under that ditch and not flood our house out. And I don't know where to go to get some help with this, because if they build more houses across Higbee, or if they go anywhere where someone puts more water into that ditch, we're gonna be in real big trouble. So we're in trouble already.
Rick, what side of Higbee does the ditch need to be cleaned on as you're heading down towards Oneida? The left-hand
It's
side?
the north side of Higbee.
The what?
The north side.
The north side of Higbee?
Yeah,
You called Dennis?
I called Dennis, yeah.
You think that's gonna solve the problem?
Not totally, but it's gonna help a little by having the ditch clean versus the way it is right now.
Well, they can't dig a ditch any deeper in front of that ditch because it's all shale there. They
So-
can't, it's
solid
rock.
rock in front.
They can't go any
Right.
deeper. So, when will they start this then?
He put it in his schedule.
I'll call.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll call.
Because this is not only springtime rain, it is also winter runoff,
Right.
quick melting. Yeah, it is not just seasonal and not just occasionally, it's all year round, where I showed, he has many pictures.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it's becoming worse and worse all the time.
Rick, didn't we do work up there 4 or 5 years ago on
Yes.
Christopher?
Yeah, Mary Jo,
Down
No, Mary Jo, yeah, that's the one that
Yeah,
started,
yeah.
that's the one that started all that crap.
they put a catch basin, because it's the inner
Yeah,
circle,
I
they put a
remember.
catch basin
Three
about
catch
2
basins.
lots
Yeah.
up.
Yes.
The only trouble is that catch basin doesn't take it either, because it's not just the water from the circle, it's the water that's coming and running down into the back too. So that catch basin helped her, but now since that can't carry it, it's backing up this way. It's also coming and backing up from the side of our driveway.
Not only that, when they put that drain system in, I think they went right in our doggone where we had our French drain. So that clogged the French drain up. So now we got nothing, we got no drain now.
You know, all these drainage problems are being addressed up there by people that they're taking their wet backyards and putting the drains into the front, which I guess is okay, but in the meantime, because their pipes are small, we've got more water running off yards and driveways that become
Going
a
across the road.
waterfall into this same one ditch area. So we're seeing water from the front, the back, the sides, everywhere that are coming and creating this problem for our lot. So,
But you also mentioned there's other subsequent properties that are
Oh,
experiencing
yeah,
the same
there's
thing.
Oh,
the
yeah.
ones in back of us, the ones in back of us, I don't think they did, I think the people before me did. They put a doggone sump pump in, instead of going to the drain in front, they came to the drain in back.
our neighbors
So
here
it's-
He's from back
too.
there,
He can
so
tell you.
I hate to speak out of turn because I know everyone else.
If you could just say your name, just,
Yes.
we're trying to keep addresses so we can write notes and.
Yeah, my name is Nick Cataldo, and I live at 9 Christopher Circle, and I live behind Ralph and Carol, our properties over Lat, and I can attest that when it rains hard, you can see between their houses that rainwater just comes up out of the ditch down in between their houses. The water, when it's raining, you can go up to the end of Christopher Circle and watch it come right across Higby. It comes right down both sides of Christopher Circle like a small river. I mean, it comes over fairly quick. And in the middle of Christopher Circle, where all the backyards meet, it's of course on a slant, so the water runs down, and you can just watch it coming up over Higby, right down in back of all the houses and the properties and whatever. And I've been there 13 years, and I've seen an increase in the water coming. But to attest to a situation that helps is my next door neighbor, Charlie Sandwick, about 5 years ago. We went to several meetings with several of the neighbors, and they did put in a storm drain behind Charlie's house, and then along the side of his driveway, which also comes up against Kelly's property. Put in a new catch basin at the corner of probably 4 properties, one being mine, and then another one at the other end, and then that goes out to the main. When it rains hard, that does alleviate a lot of the problem. You could just see the water will sit for about 10 minutes and then it's gone. So that's helped quite a bit. But after Charlie moved, the new people came in, put in an in-ground pool, and that doesn't help matters at all. But my point is, by putting that drain across the back of the yard, it alleviated a big problem that used to be back there. My thought is if the town could put in, say, another 100 feet or so of drainage pipe, that would alleviate the problem, at least in the backyards where they all meet. I've talked to other neighbors, and they're complaining about it. It stays wet, not just for a day, but for days, whether it's raining or not. Would it alleviate the whole problem? No. But would it help? Yes, definitely it would help. It's worked before, so my point is, I think it would work again if we just extend the pipe up, like Ralph was saying. Years ago, they put in the clay pipe up above, and that helped. Now, I look in that storm drain often, and in the catch basin, and on the north side of the basin, there is a hole for like if another pipe would be, but there's constantly water coming into that, so it is helping. But if more drainage pipe could be put in, it would alleviate the surface water and any water sitting on the bedrock, because we all know anywhere from 3 feet to 5 feet to 6 feet down is rock. So that water table comes up, but with the perforated pipe there, it carries it away. So it's not a permanent fix, but it would definitely help, and fairly simple fix. Once they put that other stuff in, it really helped.
That would help your yard, your
Yeah,
backyard.
well, I'm
Yeah.
talking to go
Yeah,
up
for-
above
for
yours
the-
too,
Yeah,
to catch that water coming down off of Higby and
they've got,
But it
there's
did
just
help.
not enough piping to carry the water that's
thank
coming
you.
under, into one section of the drainage ditch. That's all there is to it. So part of his problem is the water that's building up, coming a lake, going down the side yard, and that's part of the problem that's happening in the inner circle there. So it's all, one thing is compounding another.
It got so bad that it floated. Nick's little shed he had in the backyard, it floated.
A couple of years ago, I didn't realize, I knew our neighbor before she moved to put in a sump pump, because she was getting water in the basement, so they put in gutters and the sump pump, and never realized where it was empty. It was empty at the back of her property, and there's no drainage.
Which is the back of our.
So it was during the winter, like 2 years ago, we had kind of like this winter, freeze, thaw, freeze. But then we got into like a week and a half of very, very cold weather, sub-zero. And I looked out my kitchen window one day and I saw my shed kind of tilted. It's on the back of the property. Well, the water had frozen and heaved and picked my shed up about 3 inches. It's like, oh wait. So that, and then when I went back there to look, I saw the sump pump pumping water on top of ice and whatever. So what I did the next spring, I jacked up my shed and put more block under it. Haven't had a problem since, but the water is still there. So
basically, we've got water coming into one area from all different ways, and it's not, and it's just not carrying it. We just can't carry it anymore.
We did a study a couple of years ago, I think about 6, 7 years ago. I think the county was involved. Jim, do you remember where we were at the library? And I don't know, through Nancy Patarini and going around in terms of residents having downspouts. We want to kind of go through and look to see where they're tying things in, because some of this stuff is actually coming from property owners' homes, right? That are increasing
that
the
water's gotta go
water.
someplace too, you know.
So, but the point is that, not saying they're doing anything illegal, they just don't know what they're doing, and the way they have the downspouts, everything. Even if we're looking, maybe going to the basements and seeing all this stuff, and letting them be informed of the proper way of doing it. Not that anyone's gonna be ticketed or violated or anything like that, but just to correct that, because that was a big problem that we looked at years and years ago. And we went around, and because we're looking at the water levels and flows, but I mean, like a town our size, I mean, it'd be a big undertaking, but I think the supervisor said it well in an email to us, is it really comes down to education. So we need to really educate the entire town on a lot of different levels of
You know,
things.
Jim, what you're talking about is that at one point they had stormwater, and they still have this in older communities, combined sewers, where the stormwater goes into the sanitary sewer.
Yes.
Right? So in the villages, with miller traps and old structures, there's gonna come a point in time when the law states that you can no longer put your water into the sanitary sewer. And what's gonna happen there, it's gonna exacerbate all the problems that we already have, because you talk about downspouts have to come out onto your lawn. And the villages, and the village of North Bills, village of New Hartford, is really gonna be a problem there, because right now, a lot of them will actually go into the sanitary sewer.
Just a quick note, I mean, I'm a commercial builder, I don't build homes, well, I have, but I don't have it very often. But every commercial building we build, we have to build a retention basin, whether it be a above ground retention basin or below ground retention basin. The building that I built on 115 Genesee Street in the rear, we had my whole parking lot, a third of it is a retention basin under my pavement. It's basically infiltrators, which are used for septic systems, only they're commercial, they're large. So now the new building I'm building, I have to put a retention basin under my parking lot. So you allow all these these new developers to come in and build homes. They all manage their sanitary, their water. They don't manage any other storms. You really, when you hand out a building permit, the builder has to at least manage his stormwater, like a small retention basin, not on the size you guys are building. But if every new construction had an underground basin, and you force them to build them, you probably could manage your stormwater a lot more, and then your roof leaders are going into that dry well. And all it is a 5-foot structure. It's a $300 cost for the structure. The site contractor puts it in the ground. You wrap fabric around it, you put stone in it, and you're done. and it
That's-
carries 1,000 gallons of water.
That's why in our subdivision regulations, we
Right.
require the developer to create a mechanism, post a bond, it's in for 5 years, a SWIP, so that we're ensuring that all the stormwater is being handled. But I agree with you, some guy who has a lot goes in, gets a building
Right.
permit, we probably should take a closer look on that individual lot to see what he is gonna do to deal with the stormwater.
Right, you're exactly right, Urban, and obviously in a big development, they're gonna have it. You do the SWIFT. But when a builder comes in and just builds a single home on Higby Road or Foss Cross or wherever, they should be required to put a small retention basin, whether it's above ground, below ground, or, at least they can manage 1,000, 1,500 gallons of water. It won't dump into the culvert pipe.
One of the things that we've changed is, and you mentioned at the bond, they're on the hook if it doesn't work. In other words, they build it and it worked for 2 years, the 4th year it doesn't work for some reason. They're on the hook to come back and fix it. So that's a change that we've made.
Absolutely, but on Higby, there are houses not in a subdivision that are being built, I don't know. That's
Right
what-
across, yeah, right across the circle.
Yeah, Jewel.
No, Jewel Ridge
Jewel
is
Ridge.
the approved subdivision that Lewis did. And we were very careful.
Talking about across the street.
We were very careful about the stormwater because somebody that was on Christopher, I recall, had a serious problem with Jewel Ridge because they put a detention pond or detention basin in, and it was affecting a property owner immediately behind it on Christopher Circle. And I know adjustments were made
Right.
to try and alleviate
They
that
still have water back
situation.
there, they're still
But
having problems
you're
back
talking
there because the
about-
houses are higher.
Higby Road itself, and it's not a subdivision, there's just lots where people are building.
Yeah, they're individual lots, so they may be.
They're selling
So there's another lot for sale.
And it wasn't part of the subdivision?
No.
Well, when South Park was a swamp, we had no problems.
I just want to comment about Jewel Ridge, that is a problem. My neighbor on the other side of me, who lives directly behind Jewel Ridge,
Oh, yeah.
her backyard's like a swimming pool.
Yeah.
I don't know if someone took drainage out back there,
There was supposed to be a
but
drainage
that
pond
water
right there.
comes right down
It's
and
all rock.
probably 3 property
It's all
strips,
shit.
all of them.
It's all shit.
They're under like 3-4 inches of water, easy,
And we
easy.
should have Joe take a
So
look at
that,
that. Because
that in itself should be addressed.
yeah, we had an engineer look at that, I mean, we were all over Jewel
Well,
Ridge.
I know, but maybe after these people have moved in, they did something to make their yards more attractive or something. But I can attest, I mean, I've been back there and, you try to walk back there, you can't, the water's that deep.
Is the detention basin there?
Yes.
Oh, it is,
I checked it, there's
Yeah.
got basins back there.
Yeah.
It's pipe back there.
but it's not working?
It's works, but when you get the large downpours, it's just like everywhere else.
But and the houses are above Christopher Circle, so that water just runs down their backyards. And I don't know if the system's not big enough to handle it, but it's still happening. I mean,
Well, there's
I was just
one
over
where
my
the
neighbors the other
developer
day.
will still be on the hook.
It's a mess.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
all shit.
yeah, so the ground would drain.
It's all shit.
No, it's rock, it's bedrock.
That's why.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
It's not even shale, shale will take water. We worked on that house to the right, the old house that was the original house, we put a water line across the road. It's not
So the road's not taking
solid
any
rock,
water out of it.
bedrock, because we had a jackhammer with a big machine.
That's why Joe Ridge didn't take off, because it's all rock.
Exactly. It's not, there's no leaching up there, so it's just solid rock. And the problem in our whole area, I mean, we all know, it's either rock or clay. So there's no,
Question, when the developers come in and put a pool in, or they come in to put drainage from a backyard to a front drainage, is there some kind of coating or something permit they have to be sure they're not adding to more flooding problems?
On a residential, and there's no engineering report you have to do that on private residential property. On commercial, yes.
In other words, you can take and you can put your sump pump in your backyard and go right down within 2 or 3 feet of somebody else and plug them
No, you
out.
can't
No,
discharge
you
it.
can't discharge water in someone else's private, that's a code violation. But if they took water off their roof and put it into the stormwater pipe, that's legal. In fact, that's what you're supposed to do. So, you know, I mean, no one's breaking any laws there, it's just if they discharge septic pump water onto your lawn, yeah, that's a code violation.
I think we should look at, because Mr. Roberts educated for, you know, because that is gonna help a lot in the future.
Because we're building, we're getting small developers who's just coming in and saying, I help you house here.
So that one building lot that's for sale, right across from our circle there on Higbee. Now, are they just gonna do they have to put a pond, or one of those retention ponds in, or are they just gonna build it there and hope the water goes our way?
They don't as we sit here today.
No.
But I know Joe in the past, because we've had situations where someone comes in when their neighbor is building up the lot, discharging water onto their property, where Joe's gone in and said, I'm not going to let you continue until you provide an engineering certificate to verify that you're dealing with all of your on-site stormwater on your property. We had one in Stonebridge, is Stonebridge the road that comes off Higbee? We had one in Stonebridge exactly like that, and Joe required an engineering certificate and proof that what they were doing was not going to impact the adjoining property. But now that we're on notice of this situation, I don't think it's unreasonable for Joe to say to somebody who's coming in to get a building permit, what are you going to do to handle all your on-site stormwater?
And just so you know too, and another thing is, yes, engineering report, that's great that you do that. It might give you some flow charts and different things that you need, but at the end of the day, if they pipe their water into the storm drains that are, you know, for the town, and we have a huge rainstorm, and they're not capable of handling the rain, it still doesn't matter. I mean, we're not getting any further that way either. So again, if you build a house, you're gonna have more stormwater. I mean, if you ask somebody that, again, has a 3/4 acre lot to put a retention area on there, you know, that's gonna be a hard sell across the board. I don't even know if you could do that, but, you know, so I don't know if that's really gonna help the situations that everyone else has, because again, in your areas that are already been developed, some of them since the 50s and the 40s, the drainage that you have there really needs to be upgraded, you know, to take on the water uphill. So that's, I think, more of the issues that we have. I don't really think it's, you know, the newer homes going in, because, you know, again, they're abiding by the proper code, they're getting rid of their water, discharging it properly. But again, if it comes downstream and you have a pipe that can't take it on, or you have storm drains that are not functioning correctly, or you don't have stormwater management on your own property, that's why these are ponding in backyards and things. So that's one of the things to look at too. And I seen this because I have water issues in my backyard. My neighbor had water issues. Well, he spent $40,000 in his backyard. He has no water issues, but now his neighbor has more water issues. So again, you know, and then the neighbor next door has to fix his backyard the right way with proper drainage, pea stone, you know, pipe, perforated pipe to get his good, and then the next neighbor's gonna. So it's just going downhill, and it's not that they're not abiding by the codes. They're coming, getting the proper building permits, doing the proper things. But again,
All this building is going up, all this building is going up and just creating more and more water problems for everybody. You know how deep that ditch would have to be, my neighbor's ditch would have to be to hold the water that's coming, that's being backed up? Be pretty darn deep. I don't think he's gonna be happy.
If a guy with a 3/4 acre lot's gonna build a house, why wouldn't you require him to put a retention basin? I'm not talking about a pond, an exposed pond, but why wouldn't you make him put at least a 500 to 1,000 gallon dry well in his yard and manage his, they're not managing their stormwater, they're just dumping it into the ditch. And it is causing problems for folks downhill, me especially, but it starts there and then it winds up on Genesee Street. But I mean, it doesn't matter whether I'm building 100 houses or 2 houses. Each house should manage their own water. Most towns do. We don't. We just dump it into the, if you go up Upper Gilbert or any of those roads up there, Compton, most people, as I walked it with these guys, everybody's got pipes coming out to the ditch, which is the common way everybody does it. There's nothing in between the house in the ditch other than this pipe. If they dropped the dry well in, it would manage all of their water maybe through a heavy storm for at least an hour or so, and then it dissipates. So, I'm not saying they're gonna go to people on Compton that houses are 60 years old and say, all right, you gotta put a dry well in.
Yeah,
But
you still
anybody
pipe-
that's building a new building,
With that dry well, you still pipe it to the ditch, you just slow
You
it
still
down.
pipe-
right?
yeah,
So it doesn't
it's-
back up into your house, though.
right, it's still piped to
still
the
piped to
ditch,
the
but
But you're only talking about the water that's guttered, though.
any water, I mean, if a new home is built and there's an underground retention basin, we'll call it a dry well, doesn't matter, it's all the same.
Right.
If the house is graded to that dry well, all of the water is gonna go into the dry well. It's gonna buy an hour, it's gonna take 1,500 gallons with the stone in the structure. So really, you could just about manage a storm with that one structure. Once it gets up to a certain elevation, you got a discharge pipe, then it goes into the ditch, but at least it buys time and it saves, you know, and you say, well, you know, the guy that's building a house on a 3/4 lot, well, if you hand out 10 permits, and each house is generating 1,000 gallons every time you get a hard rain, it's 10,000 gallons of water that everybody else is getting because they built a new house. You don't wanna penalize them, but listen, if I gotta put a water system, if I gotta put a sanitary line in, if I gotta bring a 3/4 inch copper line in to feed my house for domestic, what's the difference in me servicing my stormwater? It's just something that you should make them do. And then as you go along, hopefully people catch wind of it and say, hey, I got a 40-year-old house, but you know what, I'm gonna do that because I'm tired of the water backing up in my house. You know, it's, most developers are not gonna not build the house because they gotta spend a couple $1,000s on a retention structure. They're gonna do it. If they don't do it, well, then they're not a very good builder. So we have to do it with a commercial building. We cannot build a commercial building without a retention basin. So why is it that they hand out residential permits and don't make the developer or builder, call it what you want, manage their own water?
I think it's a good idea, that we should look at that as a whole.
Most of the houses in this town were built 50s, 60s,
Right.
70s, 80s,
I
90s,
agree.
2000. And back then, the infrastructure underground was put in. We didn't get rain back there like
No.
the last 10 years.
Ask Trump, there's no
So
global warming.
you take a ride through this whole
All the
town.
same.
When it's raining, we got geysers like this coming out of the manholes.
I see
Because
it.
you can't take the water and it pushes it up the manhole.
But at least if you start now,
Right.
if you build, I don't know how many building permits you guys hand out a year, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 100, but whatever it is, each house is generating 1,500, 2 gallons of water, whatever it is. I'm not an engineer, but you could do the calculations per acre and know what they generate, and the roof system, you know, if it's a 3,000, you know, these houses are not small either. Most of these houses that are being built now, they're 3,000-4,000 square feet, so there's a lot of roof. And that water comes off the roof, and it's gotta go somewhere in a hurry. You know, and you took a lot that had 35 trees on it, because nobody leaves any trees anymore. They take them all down and then they replant new ones that are this high when you took down an oak that was 100 feet high. So that goes away too, so the water just sheds off the lot. It doesn't, nothing soaks it up, so.
Yeah, no, the same point I mentioned the fall this morning, talking about the same idea, so I think really we have to seriously look at that for new developments, whether it's individual or whether it's in a new development on an individual basis anyways. So I think down the road, it's only gonna help. So,
Yeah, everything helps. But going forward, the problem that currently people have, like right now, there's no building going on currently. So that would help in the future, but looking at the problem that we have now, I think, you know, there needs to be also work done on people's properties to get everybody's stuff fixed. I mean, that's really where we're at too, though. So I mean, I think that's really the focus, because everyone here tonight, you know, is here for stuff that they've had that, again, a lot of them that I spoke to on the phone has had these problems for 5, 10, and he said 30 years, you know what I mean? So these are ongoing problems that, again, a lot of the work, because the areas are so congested with homes, the town can't go in and put a big retention pond somewhere else. We bought 4 or 5 homes and knocked them down and put a retention area. So I guess the hard thing is to say we can't do work on private property, but we have to look and see what could we do on each person's individual parcel, because that's what's gonna help, again, the people downstream. And, you know, like this situation here on Higby, there's no area to put a retention basin like there is on you know, Farmcrest or any of those other areas that we're doing. So where do we go from here? I mean,
But that's the point, I think, with the new homes that are being built, if we implement that, again, whether it's 4 houses, it's 44,000 gallons that are not gonna be going across the road, it's going to help. But yes, I understand that there's current situations that, again, the area has just changed. We're getting more rain. This year is identical to 2017 in terms of, it's been cold, it's been rainy, you know, finally we're seeing some sun. But this happened, you know, 2 years ago exactly. We got that one heavy storm, and all hell broke loose across the whole county. I mean, it wasn't just New Hartford, but, you know, and I think what really impacts, and that's why you're all here, is when we get 2-3 inches an hour, that's when we have our problems.
No,
If it's a one-shot deal.
I know your situation's a little bit different, but
Yeah.
most areas, you know, it happens when there's so much, and like Rick said, you know, it bubbles up, it can only take so much. But those are the things that I think we're, you know, as far as you're gonna talk about a little bit later, is, you know, really digging into what we can do. I mean, and what we can't do, right? I mean, sometimes it's gonna be hard to hear this, but sometimes it's not the town's problem, right? It may not be the county's problem. It just could be the way things are, right? I know that's hard to hear, it's hard to say, but I think collectively here tonight, we're gonna try to look at, you know, what we can do to help resolve where we can. But I gotta make no promises. I think the town has done a pretty decent job of putting in, as Councilman Reynolds mentioned, the retention ponds on, you know, Woodbury, I think even back at Janet Terrace and all these other areas. I mean, we're doing what we can. Tibbetts was Grand Show was a huge undertaking, almost $1 million. Great, you know, Rick got great support from Senator Griffo's office, the county, to help offset that, and that was a long project. And I know Dave's going through the same thing that I went through with his project, which is going to help a lot of homes. It's a frustrating part, I know at probably his level too, is it takes so long and all these hurdles, and we wish we can get this thing done like right away. I know, because I had a lot of frustration, but, you know, I think it's moving forward, it's gonna happen. But I think, you know, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but Paul's got a great idea too, as far as looking at infrastructure that's there that's extremely old. So I mean, we'll get into that a little bit later. But we're trying to help. I know the highway department's done a great job, Rick and Chris and all those guys. I mean, you know, I don't know. It's just a stormwater, as Jim Donald's always said too. We don't know what word you want, but stormwater's been here for a long time, and we're trying to plan ahead for whether it's even commercial buildings. We always heard the analogy that the Olive Garden project or so. We've really learned a lot from what they've done in terms of drainage. So we're implementing that going forward, using that platform to help for what's the one by in Garrett Mills? Yeah, but the Royal Brook.
Oh, yeah, Royal Brook Lane, yeah,
that was
on the One Creek.
That was a big project too. So.
In fact, we're working on Middle Settlement Road now with special metals, so that's been an ongoing project that, you know, we got grant money from the county.
So Dave, go ahead, you got a question.
Yeah,
So
I'll
say
be
your
brief
name,
because
Dave.
I'm in a different area of the town, but David Meyer, M-A-I-E-R, Mallory Road, 9293, Palmer Creek. I know the town's been very good about coming in, and I know they're gonna come back in as a DEC because it's a trout feeder to the great Sequoia Creek. But I really like to see something put on the planning of getting engineering of Sessions, Mallory, and Chapman. That water flow coming off those hills. There has been, you know, development, Hickory Hills there. There's 2 creeks that merge in my yard in the back. Significant flow. My neighbors are always flooding on the other side of Mallory at the lower end there, so I'm grateful for the town. I know Rick's, they're planning to coming back in there again, but long-term, I'd like to see some kind of work and getting some engineering done to figure out if there's something that can be done to slow down the water flow. It's significant. In August, you'll go by and the thing is dry. That last storm we just had 2 weeks ago, another 6 inches and the creek would have been backing up on Mallory Road on the other side of my property. So that's all I have to say. I know you guys, we all stand up, water's coming down faster, bigger storms, and we are building. And we live in an area that is a lot of shale. If you go in my backyard, I probably could, the stone that's back in the creek back there, we probably could oil and stone another street for you, all the way from the city to the town line. So I appreciate you hearing me out, and I'd like to see something, long-term, because it takes money, I understand, and resources. So thank you.
Thank you. Dave, you bring up a good point. I mean, because you have, the roads that you mentioned are all hills. Chattanooga, Mallory, and Sessions. It's all.
I mean, when you end up with 2 feet of water at night and Chapman Road, you have a problem. That's,
Yeah.
We live in the valley, it's a quarry.
Yeah, I understand.
Hills on this side, hills on that side.
And like many people, I've been this residence 30
No,
years.
I know what he's talking about,
just
because
the
we live
last-
right just off of Chapman, so.
Yeah.
I've been there 30 years, in the last, 5 to 10 years, we're seeing problems, so. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Have a nice holiday.
Thank you.
I'm James Davidson, 239 Oxford Road. This is my mother-in-law, Judith Verkler. We're just here trying to find out the status of the, I guess already been approved. Right, Rick? It was
Been approved.
Yes.
There's a county easement on your property. What is held there, your job up is, the machine right now is on the hills for the storm from last Thursday. We're on Bradley, we're on the next one up from Bradley, to go with the lower woods one day, try to get those streets back open when they beat the roads.
Actually, the county is not on my property.
Pardon?
The county is not on my property. It's on the other side of Oxford Road, the ditch. You know
But
what I'm talking about?
we found an easement. There's an easement on your property.
Yeah,
For
from the county of
stormwater.
Hartford. Correct?
Right.
Okay, that's one of the problems. The other problem is across the road, which belongs to Dennis Davis.
It's
And I
county.
don't know if you've talked to him yet. You told me you were gonna get a hold of him, but whether you have or not, I don't know. I haven't.
We made a phone call to him. I talked to Vinnie.
I've talked to Dennis too.
I talked to Vinnie the other day, a week ago, right after that storm. I even set my trucks up there trying to open it up better than it was with a back truck, to see if we could put some help to it, to the situation. But he's got the whole county,
No, I know.
He's like us,
I know.
only larger.
See, the problem we run into is that pipe is separated. I think Chris Klein looked in the thing, so that
Well,
water's
your
going,
property.
yeah, it's going somewhere, how much of it's going to erode the soil before we have a big, large sinkhole.
Right.
We got a couple of 3-foot deep sinkholes now.
But we got the materials for your job, the machine is here, it's just waiting. We had to go to priority. We had to go to those 4 or 5 spots before we come to your house.
See, I think what was with us was, saying, well, we'll get to you in the spring,
Right.
Well,
and.
April 13th at 2:10. We will be there shortly, waiting for new excavator to arrive. The same April 20th at 11:08. No, I go back. April 13th at 12:41. The message was, we'll be there shortly, waiting for the new excavator.
That's what we were
And
doing.
then, when I called to find out if it had arrived, oh no, now we're waiting for a part, which is, I call them pinchers. That goes
Right.
with the
The thumb.
yeah, well, I hadn't heard any more since then, but I did talk to, was informed not that long ago, that when the pipe was put in, it wasn't, I truly believe that there's not a collar in it. If you join a pipe, oh my, join pipes together, you need a collar to connect them pipes to keep them from separating, instead of using the spray foam insulation.
I climbed in there, there's a bell and spigot, you don't need a collar for that when they slide together. The last pipe had settled down and the original pipe comes flat and then that ditch goes down severely out of that last pipe. When we added on to that pipe didn't sit right and it ended up falling down, therefore there was a gap in the
So
pipe.
now I have sinkholes, and I have pictures to show where I took a lawn rake, put the handle down in there, that's 36 inches deep, where that pipe is pulled apart. Now, I had a cinder block, as a matter of fact, you put the cinder block there to come across. That cinder block now is down in there. I have a special needs grandson, which everybody knows, because I've showed him pictures, and I think you've seen him. He has no fear of danger at all. I cannot have him at my house, outside, in the back, to play with toys or anything. I have to be with him 24/7 when he's there. I lock my doors so he can't get out. I cannot have my great-granddaughter come over, she's 2, she can't play out back. And I have a front lawn, but it's right there on Oxford Road, not any further from, actually, you're further away from me than what my house is from Oxford Road. So there's no way my 2 children, grandkids, cannot come to my house to play. My grandson has not been there since all this has taken place, outside of my house, to play.
See, what even putting a riding lawnmower there, you don't know if that ground's gonna give way while you're on that thing or not. You can walk out there and just bust and we just go down.
I just bowled the lawn a couple days ago, I don't know what day it was. And I think I told you, the wheel, as I'm coming up near that where it drops off, the stones are gone, which you people know have gone, Lord knows how far down that ravine. Almost everything that you guys put in there is gone. I have I call them levees where they're high here, that stops the water, and if it goes over, there's another one, it's blocked off from the stones. Now I got a big deep hole, and I had a big piece of a tree, and I showed Chris that tonight. And I don't know if you had seen it personally or not, but now that's gone. I don't know where it's gone, if anybody picked it up, but I couldn't pick it up. The water is so deep, and I have an SUV, you could actually probably put that in there. If you had somebody pick it up, set it down, it would sit in there, and the water would probably come right inside my vehicle. That's how deep it is. Am I exaggerating? Okay. And then the person on Imperial Drive put a pipe in, and I'm under the assumption it's supposed to have been a new pipe. But it wasn't a 36-inch pipe that New Hartford could join from the pipe that's already there to go down to fill that in. It's a 36-inch pipe. It's not new. It's all rusted out. It has holes in the bottom. And I think you and maybe Rick had walked down to see it. But yet he was authorized to put that pipe in by the town of New Hartford, even though it wasn't new.
Did you get the authorization from me? No.
Well, he got the operation from somebody because somebody told him, go ahead and put it in. And I'm sure that he didn't just put it in on his own. But now that, when you do my ditch,
There's enough materials to do that one too.
you have
To go
to
right
tear
down
his all out.
To go right down to the side gardens.
Yeah, and I heard that you plan to go all the way down through. But now you gotta take the extra work to pull that out. If it had been new, you could have hooked right onto it. So there's an added expense also. Plus all the stone that was put in, when they put it in, they never took the, I'm gonna call it a backhoe, front end loader bucket. They never took that bucket and turned it and slammed it back into the box to slam it into the ground. Which when I worked at the state, this is what we did. We put culverts in, pipe, under Route 12, and right up on top of Route 12 outside of Barneville. And that thing still works. And that was quite a few years ago. And I retired from the state for almost 15 years. Now, I'd like to know when this, I understand everybody else here has problems, and I feel sorry for them, but what happens if I let my grandson come over? He plays outside, he goes near that sinkhole, he goes down in, and it caves in. What happens to him? What's the outlook? Not pleasant. And I hate to think about it. So I just want to know when they're going to do it so that it's safe. That's it.
Rick, do you know how much time we have on these other projects by chance?
What time we got on lower means?
It's whatever the priorities, I mean, we're cleaning up flood damage now, opening pipes, I mean, we've helped you before, am I not correct?
No, you're correct.
You know, we came in and helped you, if you're patient, we'll be back in there hopefully pretty soon. I mean, we had it marked once, we planned to do it, things
I
came up.
did
and then
pull
we-
the flags out so I could mow it, to keep it looking nice,
Yeah.
instead of going out with a hand mower or the weed whacker and going around every one of them little flags while I pulled them out, because my understanding is, once they put the flags in, they come and do the work within 10 days.
Right, once you
Unless-
start, you
unless
have
it-
to maintain it,
yes.
yes.
Once they start, they could, put strip of paint down,
Right,
and they wouldn't have to worry about the flags. But now it's too late. Now it's gotta be redone all over again.
yeah.
So there's more money involved to have these other people, I'm assuming, to come back and survey it or whatever they do, follow the pipes, put the flags back in.
Right, it's part of dig safe, there's no cost to it. But,
And I don't want to put these guys on the spot, you know, every time we try to get, say, we'll be there 2 weeks, something happens and then
No, I
it doesn't happen,
understand.
you know. And I know you've been extremely patient, Mr. Verkler, and I appreciate that, and I know these guys too, and we will get to it, I just don't know, I mean, Rick said he's got the materials, everything's set. to
Materials are
go.
right to the yard.
So,
To be honest with you, I mean, it's not a simple project.
I know it's not.
It's not a hillside, you know, down in a ravine,
I know.
20 feet, you know,
and you're doing more than.
in a backyard, in 2 backyards, you know.
And you're doing more than what was done last time, because
Right.
you're connected.
Yeah, we
So-
actually added on a piece of pipe to try to get rid of part of the ditch and then filled in with rock. Obviously, the one pipe is separated a little bit over time,
Yeah.
and with the floods, the rock ends up downstream.
Yeah.
You know, it was very hard to get large rock back there, to be honest with you. I mean, it's not an easy job. I mean,
I know.
if anybody hasn't looked at it, it's a pretty involved project, you know, it's behind 2 homes.
But then it involves, it's gotta come back to your property, part of
Are
it.
you
from all the water.
running the pipe across Oxford too, are you replacing
No.
it?
No.
No, it goes behind number 12, where the pipe goes.
So
From
that-
her yard to behind number 12, and then it
And
opens
I'm
up
just
into an open
in
ditch.
front of you. You're on,
So did you see the pipe on the Oxford, on the other side of Oxford?
That's the one they're talking about, the county.
That's the
I did-
county.
Dennis Davis called me the other day and said they plan to come up and work on those pipes and clean ditches and try to clean some of those pipes out. Where it comes down to the bottom of Roman and Twindom, it runs to that pipe that goes down through her yard.
but on that pipe with county, if they put something over it, so this big tree, if the tree had turned sideways, it would have blocked that whole thing.
Right.
But it didn't, it went down straight. And I have pictures of that also.
Yeah.
But if they would put grates or something in there, or to cover the end of that pipe so that something large like that wouldn't go down and obstruct it
Yep.
and create more of a problem?
I mean, it's, you know, we've done that before, a trash grate or whatever to collect, you know, you've seen them on the ends of pipes, they go at an angle, so.
Oh, yeah, we used them.
You looked, the catch basins at the end of Twindom,
Yep.
Rick said that you guys had tried to clean that out?
Yeah.
They were pretty well plugged up, the
Well,
pipes
I
still?
mean, that stems back to another uphill problem, you know, from the top of Lloyd's Lane, all that water rolls down through
Right, so those-
backyards, and in a flood like that, it's coming down at, I mean, you guys have seen it there, you know, more
Yeah,
than I
they,
have.
both of those catch basins are
Right.
not big enough to
Right.
handle that water. And then
Right.
it goes under
Right.
Twindom in a
Yeah.
12-inch pipe, which it's gotta make a right-hand turn when it's coming down. It doesn't make any sense. Something's gotta be done with those catch basins.
Right.
Because the water doesn't fill up, goes across the road, makes its way down into the valley between the backyards and ends up in my cellar.
Yep.
If that's the problem what this gentleman was talking about, they're still, with all the water problems, they're still building. And there's no guarantee that the water that they're going to be now pushing into the drains, which is flooding all around, is going to be eliminated, but even more, the more they build. So I've been trying to get a hold of someone since last fall, and here we're sitting now, so it's a snail's pace. So since then, we've had a house going up, another house going up, so now we got more. Nothing, until it's addressed, that some of this changes that neighbors and builders and everything are doing are addressed, we're still gonna constantly get more water, whether it's your front yard, your side yard, your backyard, and through the drains.
Well,
I mean,
Chris,
with their
at the
issue, I don't
Twin-
think there's been too much development.
Up at the end of Twin and Hughes, where that big
Yes.
pipe and it all comes down, is there a retention pond above that?
No,
I thought there was when they built those houses.
no, not that I know of anyways. Lloyd Lane.
Yeah, I know.
There's
I
talk
think-
about
I mean, that's ultimately
That should be done then.
a point made to do something with that, because, I mean, not only does it inundate all the pipes, it starts running over land, it runs in between the houses on Roman Road, and
Right.
between them, and right down through the Oxford, you know.
Yeah, and then on both sides of Twin, it's like a river that comes down.
Yeah.
And I've got a 100-foot French drain that borders my property in the back.
Yeah.
It came down with such force 2 years ago, it took number 2 stone and cleared it right out. I got pictures of it, well, Jim, you saw it. It was just amazing. And then last Thursday, we got the storm. It moved a little, the stone, that's when I got nervous, I was on the phone. Yeah, here we go, you know, it's like deja vu. Groundhog Day, and I'd like to see, definitely, whether it's the county or the town, get together and address the catch basins. If we gotta put a retention pond up at the end of Hughes, maybe that's something that'll help also.
I know.
But Jim, you said you had something about an engineer's report up there also a couple years ago, they were doing?
We did a project up on top of Hughes, we did the riprap.
Yeah, where Twindom meets Hughes, we
Yeah.
cleaned that up. I mean, there was small little trenches and
Yeah,
people were
we
getting
made it.
flooded up there. The problem being with that is it runs to a relatively smaller pipe when you have these huge floods. It's not handling it, and bigger piping always isn't the answer. It's gonna come down quicker, you know? I mean, it would handle a problem right there at that intersection, but it's gonna come down to Oxford Road quicker with bigger pipes, you know? So.
And I think, for the homes on that, I mean, some form of a retention thing, but again, it comes down to how do we handle that expense-wise, who incurs the cost?
Where we put it is the
Yeah,
biggest thing
well,
right there.
I don't know if they would, yeah.
But Chris, the
Some
ones
for land where you're
those
gonna-
catch basins are the counties though?
Probably like our other projects that.
I mean, I wouldn't call them
You've
catch
had areas
basins,
that
they're
we
really
put
just
retention ponds.
drainage areas.
If you look at these, they're so densely populated.
It's like a
They took 2 or 3 pipes and
There's
just
nowhere to
built,
put it,
you know,
or not.
concrete poles around them.
I haven't
right
been
at
back
the
there, so
intersection.
I don't know.
What do
Yeah,
you,
that's looks
What's that?
no.
then you make the eyes work,
Well, like you said, you gotta
Something,
correct the problem at the top and work your way down.
Hughes way, all the way down.
Right, but if there's nowhere to put a retention pond on top,
Yeah.
where's it go from there?
I mean, with that, I mean, we briefly discussed an overflow pipe down Twindom Terrace, but
Me or?
We'll get back.
I don't know if that's the answer either. You're gonna be sending more water
I gave your
to
number.
places where it doesn't belong either. You know, somebody's gonna be taking on extra water when you put overflow pipes in there or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Problem with that one too is it comes straight down and has to make a 90-degree turn into a pipe. And more than not, it hits that road and just jumps the road and goes across the street down between the yards.
That's why Vinny gets
Right.
his.
Yeah,
When we get like.
yeah, multiple people, Roman road.
Yeah, yeah.
gets-
Yeah.
Yeah. But you also see on Roman Road where the deep ditches
Okay,
are,
I'm
the
sorry.
water that comes out of those.
Can I just interrupt? Yeah, 5 people here talking, and I have no idea what you're saying. And you're a part of the town?
Yes, I'm the foreman at the highway.
I should be able to hear, you're talking about doing something, but I can't hear because everybody else is talking. And I would like to hear, because I live down, apparently down toward the village more than you guys, but, can we do something so that
one person at a time, maybe, can speak.
So, so
Thank
finish up your sentence, your thought process on Twindom.
Yeah, like I said, we talked about at the time putting an overflow pipe down Twindom to carry some more of that water that comes off of Lloyd's Lane, but you're also adding water to places where it's not gonna belong either. I mean, you're just essentially moving it to somebody else's yard by doing that, you know.
So basically, I mean, we have a lot of homework. I mean,
Right.
it's not like you don't know, and Rick doesn't know some of the troubled areas, but again, I think we're just trying to, let everyone speak, and then again, us as a board figure out what we can do, and with the county's assistance too, so. Who else has?
Anthony Mitchell, the property in question is our plaza we bought on 3963 Oneida Street in Washington Mills. So there's a couple water issues that we have. First, I want to thank all you gentlemen. I think you're doing a great job. I know you're overwhelmed with everything going on in the town and the village, but thank you for your hard work. So the property that we own is a plaza. It flooded out June 20th with a storm. I sent some video to a few of you gentlemen. A few of you guys have been there, so you know what we're talking about. So I think the problem is that the property across the street from us, the pipe, Glencrest, the pipe under the road is undersized. So it can't handle that force of water, so it goes up and over the road. It washed our ditch line out completely, exposed an 8 or 10 inch main gas line, which is exposed now. The ditch is in, the substance that held the ditch up in the crushed stone is all in the ditch.
Which they did before.
Which you guys fixed before, it happened again.
It all washed out.
So what happens is it can't handle the forces coming up and over. This time it flooded our building, so we had to sandbag the storefronts in our building. That's one issue. The other issue is the water's coming down Chapman Road. It's making the bend in front of Nimes. It's coming down the road with no place to go. So we have one of the only ditches left on the road on our side of the property. It breaks the road. It comes across right into my driveway, which washed out blacktop this time in my property. So we'd like to have something taken care of. I'm waiting patiently to have the ditch dredged and cleaned. It's been 2 years. So whatever you can do to help us, we appreciate it. We'll work with you in any way. Thank you.
Anthony, just quick, couple things. So one, I think last year I met you out there.
Yes.
We looked at it. I think, Chris, didn't you fill that with stone?
National Grid did that because.
Okay, yeah, so we got that done.
It all washed away.
Yeah, that's their easement.
Okay.
So I called again this year. The issue is that you need there, for one, you need at least an 8-inch curb to catch that water, and you need concrete pilings or something to go in front of where that drainage is. The issue is NIMO has their gas line there, and they won't move it, or else the town pays the charge to move all their lines for them. Because you can't put concrete over them because they need access to them.
Correct.
So that's the issue that we have to get that done correctly. It really isn't, you know what I mean? So we have to kind of, I guess, fight NIMO on that situation to move those or do something else, to have a retaining wall behind those maybe for you. But
Well, I'm not an engineer by any
Yeah.
means, so I'm just gonna tell you what my thoughts are.
Yeah.
So I think the pipe's undersized under the road.
Well, if you increase the pipe size, you're gonna have more flow of water on your land, just so you know.
Correct, I understand that. So if you increase the pipe under the road and put an elbow on it so it doesn't come up and over the ditch, which is a problem, put an elbow and get it going the way it's supposed to go in my ditch. At some point, the town many years ago put maybe a 3-foot concrete culvert along my property right to the creek. And I'm not saying attach it, but if you can get it flowing that way and keep my ditch dredged down maybe a couple feet more where it can handle that flow, because it came up and over the ditch, and that's when I went into the building.
And that would work. The problem that you have is the concrete that you're saying to put the elbow has to be joined with concrete, because again, the stone is just gonna be pushed away with the force of that.
Well, on my side of the road, the pipe is in a concrete basin, so there's 3, I'm gonna call them outlets, I don't know what the right terminology is, so I have 3 concrete outlets, 2 don't even work, so I don't know where they're going, they may be plugged. So I have all that volume of water coming off the hill, that development, Glencrest, and if you saw the video that I sent you, I sent an email to you, it's like a Niagara Falls, right up and over. And
Yeah, no, I see it.
So I'm thinking if you put a bigger size and give me an elbow, and you can certainly put a grid on top of that elbow so it catches any water that does come over the road, I think that would be a pretty easy fix.
Yeah, the only thing is we have to secure that bank with concrete or something to hold that water, to deflect the water into that thing. And that's the issue I'm having with National Grid is
Okay.
they won't put concrete over their gas lines in case they have to get to them, they have to break it up. So they said that we have to move their gas line so we could put concrete there to reinforce that structure.
So are you guys gonna work on that, or is it
Well,
something I
yeah,
have
that's
to do,
what we're
or
trying to do.
Okay.
That's been our issue. It's
Okay.
not, again, they want us to pay for moving of their lines, you know, and that's their easement. So again, there's a lot to your situation that everyone else doesn't have, but
Right.
that's the issue that you have. The job to fix it is very easy, but it's the problem with National Grid having all their utilities right there, and that's their easement.
I get it. So is it possible to move that over and eliminate?
That's
that?
something too, we're gonna have to sit down with you and work on to see again, maybe we could put a structure behind theirs on your land or something that would do that. I mean, that's the only thing that I can think of. I mean, Rick, you got any suggestions or?
Paul, in the meantime, can we get a dredge at least in the meantime?
Yeah.
It comes from Chapman Road.
Correct.
Comes from under Murphy's, there's an underground culvert underneath Chapman. Murphy's property.
I see that.
It comes from actually Mallory Road.
Right. But, so over the years with progress, because, you know, it's great that the town's growing and we have new businesses coming in. So over the years, the ditches were filled in on the other side of the road. So is it possible maybe to put some concrete catch-all, don't put the ditch back, but I think if there's still pipes down there, so when the water comes down the road, it's got a place to go other than coming down my driveway and flooding itself. That's the other issue. So there's only one curb drain from the corner of 90s to my building on the other side of the road.
There's one on both sides of the road.
Yeah, but the way it pitches down.
I'm just saying, there is a
Yeah.
couple drains there. There's one by the gas substation, and there's also one when you get down by the animal hospital. I believe they're on both sides of the road there.
Can you put more ditches in, go back and put ditches in to hold some of the water? Along Chapman even, the lower half or something, I don't know.
Well, Chapman's downhill, so that's not, I mean, that probably would have to do it on Niger Street, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to see
Chapman.
what goes on there. You go to the car wash behind McDonald's, the manhole covers up in the air this high
yeah.
with water.
Yeah, no, I
That
know.
essentially drains all of that and it ends up over there where he's talking. If you look up the right side, you're looking up Glencrest to the right, that's where all that water on Chapman ends up in that ditch. It comes down through the woods, a couple sticks, logs, something, and it plugs it up and it's right up over top, over the road. And there's also another inlet to his ditch that comes down the left side of Glencrest. So he's getting hit with two pipes that immediately have to take a 90-degree turn, you know.
Drains that whole hill from the junior high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be happy with dredging it at this point, and then wait, you know, working with you in some capacity and see what we can come.
Yeah, I think we almost gotta put some kind of retaining wall or something to hold back that water when it hits. Right, I mean, and then dredge
I mean, it's possible.
we gotta just detour that water, I mean, that's really.
It's a force that's unbelievable. So this is the first time I actually came into the building. We've only owned the building 2 years, but it's been a prior problem to the previous owners.
Right, I remember.
Yeah, so whatever you can do to help us, we appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
All right,
Thank you, Chris.
Yes, sir.
My name is Marty Mayo. I live at number 4 Lower Woods Road North. There's a catch basin at the top of my driveway that's never been cleaned out by the town. I've been cleaning it out for the past 20 years, and I'm getting tired, can't do it anymore. The water comes down, it's filled now, I called 5-6 times, asked for it to be cleaned out, it hasn't been cleaned out. Comes down, overflows, runs into my house, fills my window wells up, floods my basement. I got sandbags up there trying to divert the water. I just need the culvert cleaned out. 2 hours, 3 hours, somebody come and clean the culvert out. You talked about coming to Lower Woods Road.
That's what I just told you. I've been with you before. We've been in your backyard
Yeah.
before.
Paul's been there, Jim's been there.
We've been back there with the.
And I got another issue with my neighbor's property. There's a ravine back in his property, comes across, all the water comes across his backyard, turns my driveway into a river. We talked about possibly putting a retention pond up there and diverting the water into the culvert. But if you don't clean that culvert out, I'm flooded. My basement's flooded. It's happened 4 times. I'm over it. Just need it cleaned out.
Need a grate over it
Yeah, I need some type of a grate to stop the debris from, and I think the pipe's too small too. It's a 12-inch pipe, and then it goes down to an 8-inch pipe. It's under my driveway, can't handle the water. Now, the other issue is, it's on his property. I don't know if technically he's responsible for the water coming across his yard under my driveway, but in the wintertime, my driveway's a glacier. It's, something has to be done. I mean, it would help just to get the culvert cleaned out.
Now, do you want the ditch cleaned too? With a.
There's a ditch that goes up behind his house that.
Yeah, we've cleaned that before. We've been back there with the backhoe before.
I haven't been there since I've been there,
How long have you been there?
20 years.
Yeah, we've been back there. You know Doug Garinger, don't you?
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
Doug.
we're back
Yeah,
there
I
with Doug.
think you're at the wrong house, though. I'm up at the corner.
Okay.
You're down further.
Red house?
That's my neighbor's house,
Okay.
the red
Yeah, I
house.
think it's behind that one.
Yeah, you gotta come back there and connect the, you gotta dig out at the top of my driveway, make that bigger so it holds some water. You're gonna have to put a retention pond behind his to pick up some of the water, because a lot of water comes down. I'm talking 4 inches of water up against my house, 25 feet wide. It's a river. And I got a finished basement, and I'm always pumping water out, cleaning the carpet. I'm over it. Please help me out.
Okay.
I want to thank you guys for the work that you are doing,
Sure, thank you.
and I'll try to be more patient.
I think we're pretty patient.
That's all.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
Dana Simmons, 4 Cascade Drive. Like this gentleman just said, I'm so over it. I've lived here for 9 years. I moved away from, my family in Long Island to avoid floods, and here we are. 8 times in 9 years. This last time was different because I wasn't home. So my husband was home with the kids and I was at work. Came home in my lunch hour because I got a message on my phone that the Parkway was closed and Valley View was closed. So I came up the back way, all flooding down Valley View. I get onto my block and just, I didn't bother sending pictures because I have them, but I couldn't get in my driveway. My husband couldn't get out. I mean,
Did we do work up there?
Yeah,
Because you came up before.
oh, I've been here every time.
Yeah, so.
It's every time.
But we've done work.
Yeah, we've been.
Yeah, we've cleaned, yeah, I went up there a year or 2 ago.
It's been
Cleaned out
cleaned
the back.
since 2017, but sure enough, water in my basement again. After 2017, we redid our basement. Completely gutted it. Cleaned out the weepers. Went so far even to have, B-dry basement come in and see, get an estimate, but I don't think it's gonna help. It's just,
Yeah, you're at a bad spot too, and just because you're at the bottom of the hill.
right.
I mean, I'm not, please don't misunderstand what I'm saying, but we all know water runs downhill. I don't know, I haven't seen your property, since the last time you came to the board, but I don't know if there's anything.
I mean, essentially, everything from Valley View ends up in her yard. And then ends up over in behind the reservoirs back there. I mean, their ditches in their front yard is got to be 15, 20 feet wide. I mean, there's.
And I'm surrounded in water, basically. It's coming up from
You get it from the backyard?
backyard all the way to the front. This last time, I shouldn't say it's not so bad, but It wasn't as bad as 2017, but it was bad. So
There's
bad
no-
that, you know,
There's
my
something
neighbors.
seem to go, where we're getting that from.
There's a ravine that runs parallel to Valley View
Right,
and ends at Cascade, basically.
right. And then
It's a
it
huge
runs,
ravine.
runs underneath Cascade,
Right.
two huge pipes that go
Right.
to the reservoirs. We've cleaned down to the reservoirs, the water board's been in there.
And as she just mentioned, Valley View and the Parkway were both closed.
Right.
Is that, I mean,
At the height of that storm, I was on Valley View itself, and the water was, every ditch was in the road. I mean, it was coming down the street, there was so much water coming down. at
Something
the height of
plugged
the
in there?
storm.
Why did they shut, normally Valley View doesn't
Every
close.
intersection, the water was literally, I mean, there was 2 foot deep coming down Valley View, the
Oh, I
water
know.
was at the height of that storm.
We've also had like 6 weeks of rain, so I mean, you know, again, the ground's so saturated. You know, it didn't take it on like a normal storm. Sometimes, you know, you won't have rain for 2 weeks and then you have a rainstorm, but I think the saturation was a big factor also. You know, 'cause I think even on top of the hill, we
Yeah.
were flooded. I mean, everywhere it is.
I mean, the thing is that, like, I can't even, there's no doubt that I will not be able to sell that house. I have to have flood insurance. The flood insurance does no good for me whatsoever. The only way that we ever get any money to redo our basement is because we have a rider. We have 3 sump pumps. I mean, I got no answers. I got nowhere to go.
And not that I want to say this, but, you know, with FEMA, you know, there is a certain thing that the town board declares a property an issue that we might be able to get, you know, a FEMA buyout program for something like that, you know, because again, you know, fixing that, I don't think is ever gonna happen. I don't think there's a way to fix that problem.
I don't know what the answer to that one would be.
I'll
That's
take
a
it.
tough spot.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Nobody-
that's something maybe, you know, we could discuss tonight too, if that's something you want me to look into, because there's a couple of homes in the town that I visited over the storm. There is no fix for that, or if there was a fix, it would way out cost the house buying it out than it would to ever do a project in that area, you know. Like, we just did that for 11 homes, you know, on Oneida Street and Henderson and stuff like that. Those homes were bought out, and, you know, they were taken down, never to be built again for this perfect reason, you know, so.
There's your retention pond, my property.
Yeah, too bad you're on the bottom of the hill.
They have a whole town full of road.
Unless we get a big windstorm up there.
I mean, I'm sure the people on the other side of the reservoir won't be happy about it, but, I don't know, I just, you know, I'm ready to jump ship, but I know there's really nowhere for me to go, honestly, and, it's a safety issue. It is a safety issue. I said it the last time, the water's coming from my backyard, there's like oil slicks coming into the creek. It's crazy, it's crazy.
But you got it from every direction?
Every direction.
So I don't think there's, like, again, if we put a retention pond, we looked at that before, because again, we were up there, you know, we looked at that, and if we put a retention area, one area over there, it's still not gonna help you from the left side of the house, it's only gonna take the right, so there's.
No, I mean, take the house.
Well, I know, that's what I'm saying, I mean, there's no way to fix your problems, as we've looked at it, in fact, Ms. Martin and Judas look at it, and there's no plan for it, because there's nothing to completely fix your issue. I mean, you're just getting water from every side of your house coming in, plus you have the little bridge there,
Right.
which goes right through your house, the water there, so if the front's also got water problems too, not only the back.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's the only thing that we could look at to try to do a FEMA buyout again, and, you know, have her, I mean, she would definitely be qualified for FEMA for that house, especially that you have flood insurance. Did you ever put claims in?
Every time.
Okay, so that
I
actually
mean,
helps you, because FEMA's
yeah.
trying to
Not
limit
to,
the claims.
FEMA has never helped us. I mean, it's always been through our homeowners insurance.
Right, but I mean, if you have flood insurance,
Yes.
if you put claims through the federal government, so FEMA likes to get rid of those issues instead of keep paying claims, because they
Okay.
pay it, you know, so that's something that would be definitely something
To your favor.
Yeah.
If this project, you know,
If we can get it going, and we can get this one done, so.
I'm willing to talk about it, so.
Is
just-
yours the only house there, or do you have a neighbor that has the same situation?
We're on 1.2 acres.
Oh, okay.
So it's the house that's on Valley View and their side yard is Cascade. It runs behind their house, so it doesn't really affect them. And then our nearest neighbor, there's a culvert in between us, and they used to get water, but their water came in through the basement window, so they just closed up their basement window. They're not required flood insurance or anything, and they've been good. A couple of houses down has had some issues. I don't know who's living there
Yeah, but that
now.
wouldn't be anything for FEMA, that's just
but-
minor. Yeah, I mean, that's
But ours
regular
is
living.
always the worst. And, every rainstorm is just a pit in my stomach, Usually I'm home, I can't leave, I can't get out. So now I'm sitting there, looking at the bottom of my, at the top of my basement stairs, seeing the water rise. There's nothing you can do until it recedes. And, like I said, the last time I wasn't home, my husband was home, he's home with kids. They can't get out, I can't get in. He's like, don't you dare even try to come through that driveway because the water was just, you've seen it before, it just comes over top, so.
Well,
Thanks.
look at that, like I said, you have the engineers there and to review it and try to see if there's something.
Yeah, I mean, FEMA buyout, I think is your only option. If we could do something like, if we could get that done. In fact, what I'll do is I'll work with Rich, because he's your councilman there now, and maybe we can see if we can get you some kind of relief through that, But again, even putting a retention area or anything, it's not gonna help your waters, just way too much there. And then the problem is the water in the front, because you have a bridge that goes over to your house. So when you have flooding, you can't even get to your house anyway.
Right.
So, I mean,
What year did you buy the house?
2010.
What, no, your prior owner didn't really say that?
They disclosed nothing, no.
Because that's always flooded.
It's always been there.
And, when we looked at the house, it was November.
Yep.
So it was dry, and then when we closed on the house, it was January. So that first spring, I felt like when we got up here that year, it was just, I have more snow than I've ever seen in my entire life. And, then we had storms in April. We woke up one morning and I was just like, what the heck has just happened here? They had carpeting down there. It was finished basement. We don't have carpeting down there anymore, but they never disclosed.
Before you buy a house, call the highway superintendent.
Don't worry. Next time I'll be a lot smarter about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I've had my share, I know, but now we've got more building going up on Higby. Everybody here is having water problems at the bottom of the hill, so this really sort of addresses their problem too. What's happening with new houses that are gonna go up on Higby there now? What's gonna happen with their drainage? Because that's still gonna all come down to the rest of us here, so.
Well, I think that's what we talked about before in terms of trying to sit down with our codes enforcement officer and see if there's a mechanism when they come in to get the building permit, to have them address some of the stormwater issues because of the impact that this is having on your houses. That's what we talked about before.
Yeah.
Mike Kuda, 8 Sherwood Road, been around for a bit. So I think it sounds good, the retention pond you guys have planned. I think that is going to take care of our problem in the future. The problem is the damage has already been done at my house, and the creek that is eroded almost up to my garage now. Last time we met, it was 24 inches. Now it's 19 inches. And there's been talk of some kind of repair. I know you didn't really agree to that, but others on the desk have. And I'm just wondering if it's still going to happen, or pretty soon I'm just going to have to take some cement bags and throw them in there or something. I mean, I'm willing to help, but you guys got to give me some direction on where we're going to go, because it's getting closer and closer and closer to my garage.
Like many people here, you've been very patient, and we appreciate that. And I have to turn to Rick. We've got another project up there where we've got to move a wing wall, so equipment will be in the neighborhood, and our hope is to take that equipment and move it to your Sherwood Road address, and do some, and that's gonna be a relatively major project too. Because as you know, it starts across the street. So,
The structure that we have to build for 5 pipes,
Yeah, there's I mean, we've
multiple
talked
pipes
about
coming
before,
into the
there's,
structure.
that's another,
it's a huge issue.
down in a ravine, 5 pipes, you know, it's pretty involved project.
And we don't have a right of way on at least a portion of that, am I correct?
There's a part of the sewer right away in there, sanitary sewer in there.
I mean, I'm totally okay with just beefing up my wall, because that solves my issue, right? And then I think, I think the issue is gonna be solved when you put the retention pond up, so it won't reoccur. I know you're talking about putting a pipe in and overfilling it, and that would be awesome too, but that is a huge project.
It is.
And I think there's a lot simpler project that would take care of the problem from my perspective, so that my garage doesn't go down the creek with the next big storm. But I don't know, you know, if you guys already have a plan, I don't know. But do you actually have a plan? That's my question.
Yeah, I think me and Dave and Rick went up there.
Yeah,
right?
I was there too.
Correct?
Right.
And came up with the plan of what to do the right way, because we said we were gonna Band-Aid it, you know, before, like you said, you were talking about a small plan. And I said to do it right, so we don't keep revisiting this spot, let's do it this way, and I think we all agreed that that was the way to do it, correct? I mean,
Yes.
okay, so I guess really, the problem is just the timing to get up there with all the stuff that we have, because again, you know, Rick's department, you know, is a highway department.
Right.
And he's not the storm drainage coordinator, and, you know, to have guys like that, again, that's what we're gonna talk about tonight, is, I think what we need to do is, instead of doing all these small little jobs with, whenever we have time between Rick's actual services to the town, that we have people that are dedicated to do this, so again, no one is waiting, you're on the list, and these same guys go, when they finish one job, they go to another. The problem that we have now is, Rick's department, again, doesn't handle technically in our town law, stormwater drainage. So what's happening is, he's saying, okay, guys, listen, we got a free day today from this, we're running over here to do this. And he's like, oh, we have a problem over here, so now we're running over here to do this. So again, we're stretching our staff all over the town to try to do so many things. And that's why, you know, I think it's bringing frustration to the people. So I think the only way to take care of that is, again, hire 2 dedicated people that they do not do anything else in the town but stormwater. And they work on these projects that we spoke about tonight, and they go and actually fix these things. And if we have to bond for piping, you know, and our right-of-ways and everything, to buy more pipe that are destroyed or broken in catch basin, we do that. But at least we get the job done and we get it done right. And again, that was one of the things when I went up there. It wasn't that I wasn't in favor of your project. I was in favor of putting a Band-Aid on it again, to revisit it 3 years later, to say, hey, you guys did it, and now you failed. And we knew it was gonna fail, but we did it just to make people happy. And I think going forward, we have to look at these projects and do them right, so we don't keep revisiting them. Because again, you know, a couple of years ago, we had a major storm, and we did some work. And, you know, everybody did the best they could, but they knew it was a Band-Aid, and now they've failed since then, because we didn't do it right the first time. We didn't do it right, we knew we weren't doing it right, but we just wanted to make people happy, so we tried to appease them, and then it makes us look bad. So my thing was, let's go up there, let's do it right, and let's not keep revisiting the same jobs. And then once it's done right, it's done, that's it. You know, until you move out of your house, you don't have to worry about it anymore. So that was my thing, was not to do it wrong, was to do it right. And I think we came up with that plan. Again, the only